Four, three, two, one. You're on. Hello everyone. Back again, Direct James, to share some more of my writing. This is called Before We Get to Meet Again. Pretty much just outlining a post C19er or COVID-19 challenge and plea. Want to kind of set some parameters on what I think we should embrace as a community moving forward. Almost kind of a set of guidelines that would be beneficial, I think, to the collective community if we followed moving forward, as things shouldn't be normal as we get to do normal things again. And I just listed some of the things that I think we should do. I'll list the topics and then I'll kind of go in detail on those topics or expand from those topics. But a post COVID-19 challenge and plea before we get to meet again in public spaces. This is what we're doing. Forgiving ourselves and creating more space for grace. Let other people off the hook from the narrative we gave them instead of letting them live their own life like we would like to lead our own life. We're not spending our money on things or at places that doesn't produce a positive outcome for our people. And we're pushing for pro-people stances in all walks of life, having two-way conversations in order to gain and give perspective. And we're going to create more safe spaces for ourselves and our relationships. And lastly, we're going to allow all positive spiritual people to be on the same side for once, regardless of their religious theology and belief. So I'll just jump straight in. When I say that we are going to forgive ourselves and create more space for grace, I just think we have to release being so hard on ourselves because we haven't given ourselves grace in certain areas of our life. What we may call failures, changing the narrative to lessons. Just understanding that the stories we tell ourselves should be more on the side of forgiveness and grace. And I know, like, sometimes we stay super disciplined in one area of our life so we can achieve something that someone told us we should do initially, or a belief that was handed down to us. For example, maybe you grew up with the idea that purity or chastity is what we should have in our sexual lives. And we haven't been allowed to explore that. Maybe our creativity and areas of expression in general have been stifled because our view of the subject was inherited or not explored. I just think that we should be able to make our decisions on every major subject and our experience in our life once we've reached adulthood. And by this, I mean continue to explore and continually challenge them up against what makes us happiest at the present time. And when I say adulthood, I mean the ability to have access to, comprehend, and understand the consequences, good or bad, of our actions. And this has nothing to do with actually being a well-rounded adult, because being a well-rounded adult is pretty hard to consistently do without help. So I think one of the things we definitely need to do whenever we meet again is forgive ourselves and create more space for grace in our personal lives, because that's going to outpour into our public or more social lives. The next thing I think is we should let other people off the hook from the narrative we gave them instead of allowing them to lead their own life just as we want to lead our own lives. If we're giving grace and freedom to ourselves, we should definitely extend that to other people. Our first relationship with humans was with our parents. And so it's an easy example to let our parents just be free to be themselves, knowing that it's hard to be an adult consistently, a well-rounded one for darn sure. So we need to physically and intentionally tell people that they're off the hook so they know we've let them off the hook. This is something we can't just internalize ourselves and just be like, I'm gonna let them off the hook. But whatever the relationship is, be as specific as necessary. I believe there's healing Even if it's awkward at first, it at least opens the door for active healing through its mutual acknowledgement. So, for instance, children, tell your parents they are off the hook for being held to the expectation that every time you have a need as a child doesn't mean they're obligated to drop all their other responsibilities for you. Of course, you can mention that it would be nice, and please tell them that if they do choose some lesser non-obligatory responsibility over you, you'd be hurt, but that they're free to be the human they want to be as they juggle all the role responsibilities and needs and wants that they have. Personally, I would add the final request of please just don't screw me up because I really could use a dope relationship with you as a parent. And from experience, I've realized that a parental relationship that doesn't exist definitely did affect me. And additionally, I've observed that a parental relationship that existed in a toxic way has created most of the dysfunction in certain people's lives. So yeah, let's work together on this. Feel free to interchange the relationships in your life to fit the narrative of the goal being restored humanity and free love and allowing people to lead their lives. So it's not just parents, it could be siblings, it could be exes, it could be current people you're friends with or wanting to relationship with. I just think on top of letting people off the hook, we should let them lead their own life, and hopefully it also benefits our life too. The next thing, huge, we're not spending our money on things or at places that doesn't produce a positive outcome for our people. Now this one is kind of convoluted and could get twisted with what I mean, but what I mean is like we have the power to kind of create the communities that we want, instead of people with money or innovation that opened the space and invited us in to control the narrative. Like it's a mutual thing. It's a mutual relationship. So specifically, people are able to make bad decisions to affect people's views of themselves. And that's not fair. So if a certain establishment is sexist or racist, we stop going and we let people know why. Not in maybe some hateful way, but in some form of protest. And we should ask our friends and our family to do the same. Like it's time to stand up to people who hold our people out of experiences we've had just because they look different, dress different, speak different, or love different. Like really, who made the rule that if somebody showed up to a club in a fresh pair of J's with a dope outfit, bank account full, that they can't be on the scene? Like anybody can rock that look and all types of people do. So let's change the narrative and similar ones too. We should be able to enjoy life no matter what our creed, gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, sexual preference is. And especially if you're mad cool, love the people and you showed up to have a good time. And most people are like that. And I would assume most people in your life are like that. So when society shifts to be more people focused, it should be easy to show up to a place that doesn't discriminate to people. So your money is powerful. Our money is powerful. Our community is powerful. Our conversations are powerful. So like, let's stop spending our money in places that are just discriminating against people for no reason. And you know what that is. People who are asking people to pay at a certain time, people who won't let people in at a certain time, people that are stereotyping people at a certain time. And yeah, I'll be specific. Here in Houston, there's a group of people that are lead the way to discrimination. And then there's some other people, super dope people that own and run things in the industry that are open arms and are loving and are very successful. Let's put them on. Talking to you, Kyle and Mike, y'all are amazing. So let's push for pro-people stances in all walks of life. The more we do this, the more we get what we deserve in life, which is everything. We literally deserve everything. We have to be conscious that what we support doesn't have people on the negative receiving end. And there's a balancing effect. So we need to be able to understand that what we choose and what we do will have some type of effect. Let's just make sure there's not any negative ramifications to the people in our environment. And let's also make sure that People aren't being used as the action item to create negativity. Bouncers for sure, but in all walks of life. But that covers everything from diet to nutrition to healthcare to affordable housing to job opportunities, socioeconomic policies, and a living wage. And yes, if you're wondering, it does mean your religion and politics too. And so, what we need to do now is have two-way conversations more in order to gain and give perspective. We should be able to create more awareness and perceptions of the people in the world around us by just listening or being open to it in the first place. Oftentimes, we're closed to understanding someone's plight of their light because we're closed to their way of life. I tend to wonder if we had more practice in speaking of taboo subjects. Yes, religion and politics again, but also other spooky things too, like education, incarceration, sex, social justice issues, etc. But if we had more practice speaking on those things, would we be able to understand what is really going on in our collective communities and not just our particular street or block or selected group of friends that all look like us? Also, we should be able to solve a lot of issues in our daily lives and relationships by listening more. What this does and what we need to do also is create more safe spaces for ourselves and all of our relationships. We have to be able to find a clan. And let's take that word clan back. CLAN, clan. Let's take that word enunciation back. But we should be able to find a clan where we can be our authentic selves. And the more places and the more relationships that let us be our authentic selves will help us create a better quality of life for everyone involved. This should eventually evolve everywhere that we are. Definitely would evolve into more fulfilling workspaces. Couldn't we see ourselves being a bit more satisfied at work if we got to just be more authentic a tad bit at work? What if we got to be fully authentic at work? And I'm not saying having no boundaries where everybody gets to know who you are and all your details and your personal business. I'm saying we get to be who we are and also have boundaries and have our interests and all the things that comes with being human in a safe space. And in safe spaces, we're allowed to speak our truth and not be muted. In safe spaces, we aren't afraid of someone shutting down or shutting us out because we want to communicate. In safe spaces, we don't have to hide from tough conversations because on the other side is safety and truth. In safe places, there's love, there's transparency. In safe spaces, there's the ability to be who our souls desires to be. In safe spaces is our clan waiting to cheer us on. And finally, we're going to allow all positive spiritual people to be on the same side for once, regardless of their religious theology and beliefs. If the foundation of one's spirituality and soul work are around light work, the light worker, or for the worker of light, however you want to put it, then we should find some common ground. I think in this subject, never is the phrase more accurate that we are more alike than we're different. But for some reason, we have religious folk and spiritual folk at odds still. Remember, if we really are committing to more self-love and loving others more, we should totally give our spiritual brothers and sisters a pass on both sides of the aisle. And in conclusion, remember, if we're doing all this post-COVID-19, we are giving ourselves forgiveness and grace. We are letting people off the hook of our narratives for them. We're avoiding or challenging places that won't let people experience certain things because of who they are, even though they came to have a good time, just like you or me. As well as we're having more two-way conversations and creating more safe spaces for each other. So all of this seems like the perfect recipe of coming together on a soul level as well, don't you think? So yeah, so that's it. I mean, that's my plea once we get back together. And I know a lot of us have been doing some personal work. You call it shadow work, you can call it soul work, you can call it self-love, you can call it self-help, you could call it healing, you could call it mental health, you could call it restoration. It's soul restoration. We all have different words for what we've been doing at this time. And I know all of it has kind of challenged the status quo of our personal lives and also what the community around us is like and what we believe on some very big issues, be it social awareness, be it social politics, be it social economics. Um, and so that's our challenge. That's my challenge to you. So I will reread them all again. Um, but my plea before we get to meet again out in the world doing normal things is that it's not as normal as it was before seeing one niner. So this is what we're doing. Here's my challenge to us, that we're forgiving ourselves and creating more space for grace internally, that we're letting other people off the hook from the narrative that we gave them and we believe that they should have because of a title or interaction or relationship, letting them lead their lives. So obviously there's responsibility there on all sides, but that's number one. We're not spending our money. We're not supporting things or places that doesn't produce positive outcomes for our people, for all our people. And I know that's a sacrifice for a lot of us. That's a sacrifice. That's a sacrifice. But man, that's something that is necessary, because if somebody's doing that for you and you're doing that for someone else, then that full circle comes around, and there lies acceptance and peace and restoration and creativity and self-love and just appreciation for the community around you. We're pushing for pro-people stances in all walks of life. Your politics, your religion, how you spend your money, how you eat, just how you live. Like, it's just gotta be for people. It's gotta be for all people. It's gotta be for all people, and not just self-serving, or not just this ideology that someone is better than the other people, or that's just how it is, or to trickle down eventually. Like, we got to just support it straight at the core, at the base of it, the foundation, and then that's where change exists. We're having two-way conversations more in order to gain and give perspective and listen. I I'm on the side that listening more, gaining perspective is number one. Um, because a lot of times we push our perspective and our narrative on people. Not many of us are really good at the EQ part of that, or the IQ, but definitely the EQ part of that. So I would say try to gain perspective first, and giving it last. And what that does is create more safe spaces for ourselves and our relationships. Listen, relationships are so key, and we got to create safe spaces, and we got to be able to speak our truth, and we got to be able to feel confident of walking in and out of places and spaces that either serve us or don't serve us, and be able to make that decision and not be held over something like fear of backlash or retribution, or loss of relationships. Like, we should be able to experience the softer side of making decisions, because so many relationships end in the negative side of it, the harsh side of it, because people are holding on to it, or untrustworthy, or confused. And so there's so many things that a safe space will happen in our relationships. I want to read this part again. In safe spaces, we're allowed to speak our truth and not be muted. In safe spaces, we aren't afraid of someone shutting down or shutting us out because we want to communicate. In safe spaces, we don't have to hide from tough conversations, because on the other side is safety and truth. In safe places, there's love and transparency. In safe places and spaces, there's the ability to be who our souls desire us to be. In safe spaces is our clan cheering us on. And finally, we're going to allow all positive spiritual people to be on the same side for once, regardless of their religious theology beliefs. Our soul knows the connection. Our soul knows the connection. And if we leave with that, we got it. So that's my plea. Drop a comment, send this to a couple people that you know and love. Send this to a couple people you want to know and love. But as the country and the world is starting to open back up and also still be wary of opening back up, I think we have just some more time to call people and let them off the hook, have a two-way conversation, connect spiritually, understand how far our money goes. And some of us don't even have the money right now to even go anywhere. So when you do, don't you want to make that count? And don't you want to be able to show up wherever you want to show up and spend your money and have a good time? So we need each other for that, okay? I love you guys. Let's have these two-way conversations. Let's be pro people in everything that we're doing. And man, we're in this together, right? We're in this together.